Greetings and salutations, fellow humans. This is JD, no T. I will have T in the next video, I promise. But for now, I have Mike and Ike Vampire Variety. Because I want to chew while I answer questions. I was tagged by the lovely Anaïs to do the Would You Rather author tag. It is 20 questions about being all things author. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Question number 1. Would you rather have a male main character or a female main character? I tend to have a male main character, but I am planning to have a couple of female main characters just because I like variety. And I want the challenge, and being a feminist, I want to do my best to give a female perspective from a male point of view, if that makes any sense. Question number 2. Would you rather wake up before dawn every day to write or stay up into the early morning hours to write? Whenever inspiration hits, I don't have a preference. I used to always be a night owl. Then for the last couple of years, I've been able to wake up a lot earlier to do my stuff. As long as I have time to write, that's what makes me happy. I do think that, and the thing is that I also write a lot during lunch hours. So it would be the midpoint between dawn and the early hours of midnight or whatever. Question number 3. Would I rather write a book that is torturous to write but which is very popular, or write a book that is fun to write but which is only known by a small audience? Well, I think I already wrote a book that is fun to write but which is only known by a small audience. Being an indie author, I'm not that well known. I am known by a couple of people, and that's cool. I've been very fortunate in many things and the people I've met. But apart from, I want to be known by people, but I do enjoy the act of writing a lot. And I think that more than anything, even if it's torturous, if it has a positive impact on someone's life, I'd go for the torturous one. But if it's about enjoyment, I truly enjoy writing, be it poetry, fiction, reviews, or whatever. Would I rather write a sci-fi story or a fantasy story? I'm working on both, but I lean more towards fantasy because I like the rigors of true sci-fi and the challenges that brings. But with fantasy, it's this immense amount of freedom to just write whatever comes to mind, and I really love that freedom. Would I rather use first person or third person? I'm also using both. I don't want to limit myself. I like to write whatever comes to mind, and I think every project definitely defines the person that would be the narrative perspective that would be ideal to tell the story. I'm doing a sci-fi story, and I'm doing it in first person, and it should be first person, and the human cycle in general is in third person. So it offers different things, different challenges, and different tools to write the story, and I like both. I like the challenges of both. Would I rather meet any character of any book or short story in real life for one day, or personally know any author you wish? I'd rather know the author just because, first off, they're real, and what if you met a character? First off, what if you met a character and it disappointed you? That would suck. But what if you met someone that you were completely enthralled with, or wanted to have in your life, and you could only have it one day? I'd rather meet the author and make sure that it's a cool author and someone that I can resonate and just spend some time with. That would be ideal, I think. Question number 7. Would I rather only be able to write my book in scenes from end to beginning, or only be able to write it in scenes that jump around in the timeline randomly? I write sequentially, everything I write sequentially. I'm always pushing myself to do different things with the plot that way. And I would actually like the challenge of either doing it back to front or doing it in different segments. But I think from a writer's point of view, I could do better work writing back to front than switching from one side to the other. Because I like for the narrative to have a ebb and flow, and I like it to have an arc, go places. And if I write it out of order, I do worry that I might put more emphasis on one part than another, and it wouldn't. You know, I think the best way that I can describe it, sometimes you hear an album that has great songs, but the track listing sucks. It doesn't flow. And you hear the songs in shuffle, and it's fantastic. And then you hear other albums that have this perfect sequence. And I'm always pushing towards that. I always have that album mentality of this has to work from prologue to epilogue. And yes, I do write prologues and epilogues and enjoy prologues and epilogues, even though it's out of style. I don't care if it's out of style. It's something that I enjoy, and it has a reason to exist in all of my works. That rant aside, back to front. Uh, Question number 8. Would I rather only be able to write dialogue if I could act out the voices out loud, or only be able to write action if you act it out in real life? The dialogue, simply because I don't want to face anyone with swords or anything, and I want to keep all my limbs. And some of the actions are dying, so no gracias. Would I rather publish with the most successful publishing house in my genre, but have to wait 2 years to see my book in print, or self-publish with no expense or marketing assistance, but see your book in print within 3 months? I'm an indie author. I've self-published 8 books. I'm gonna self-publish more, and that's my answer. I did in-depth research to 4 publishing houses. I won't mention the names, that I thought my work could resonate with them. I put a lot of effort into the cover letter and the research and choosing the right place to write, and I never got an answer. I never even got a no. So I'd rather do it my way. I meet more people that way. Every writer wants to be published, to not have to worry about the grind, um, or to have that chance to more success. That is a fact. But even though it's an arduous and intense path, I do enjoy being an indie author and what that means and the freedom that it gives me. Because if I publish with the most successful publishing house, that would mean that I would be heavily edited, or at least that's what I tell myself, so that I convince myself that self-publishing has been the best route for me. So, would I publish with a publishing house? Sure. Will I do it immediately? I don't know. I don't know how to go about that again, because uh, the act of writing is extremely liberating to me, and having to invest time in convincing someone to give me the time of day. Well, I've been very fortunate, and a lot of people have read me. Not enough to sustain even a month or two, but enough people for me to notice that what I do has worth. And the dream is to eventually write so many good things that one publishing house says, you know what, do you want to do a book with us? That's the dream. And in the meantime, I can write. Question number 10. Would I rather write a goofy story or a serious story? I think I'd rather, if I had those two choices. I do enjoy varying tone and humor and adding elements of everything. But if I had to choose one or the other, I think goofy, because at the end of the day, sometimes we need to escape, and I think laughter is one of the best medicines that we have accessible. Question number 11. Would I rather have an authorial voice that always sounds like the narrator from Planet Earth, or have an authorial voice that always sounds like Captain Kirk? I don't really get that question. I would go for Planet Earth because I can't. It, would you imagine a sex scene with the voice of Captain Kirk? No. I don't think that would be great. I would go for the narrator from Planet Earth. Question number 12. Would I rather write a story knowing that you will have to kill off the main character eventually, or write a story knowing that everyone the main character is close to will eventually have to kill off? I'd go for the latter. I think one of my favorite series is The Blood Sword, and the protagonist did not have a easy time, and a lot of people that he cared for did not make it in different ways, different reasons, and he always thought that he was cursed. And I think I'm more fascinated by a character that feels cursed but still does what's right, rather than someone who goes through the Messiah route. Um, it's noble, but we have quite a few good examples. I think the other one, that even though it hurts, that even though it's awful, that you still do what's right. I think that shows moral fiber that doesn't cut easily. Question number 13. Would I rather leave my ending somewhat open and bittersweet, or leave my ending on a cliffhanger? I like slightly open endings. I don't like cliffhanger endings unless there's going to be a conclusion. Uh, I like to have that satisfaction. I like to leave it open ended. Like there's more stuff that can happen, but like a huge cliffhanger. Let's put it this way: for novels, I like to have that slight open ending, and for short stories, I like that cliffhanger. To me it's different, and for short stories I like to leave with that punch that you go like, oh god, that was awful, and what happened, and you don't get the answer for short stories. Question number 14. Would I rather have my cover art designed by Tim Burton, or have my cover designed by Stan Lee? Tim Burton. It's a knee-jerk reaction for a reason. I do love Stan Lee, but Stan Lee has like these really rigid lines and really stylized, and Tim Burton is like very whimsical and a lot of curves and stuff. And I do like curves. Yeah, I like curves. In design, I think curves are an interesting thing that can have a message in and of itself. Question number 15. Would I rather write in many genres or write only in one genre? I already write in different genres. I will not ever be a one-trick pony or pigeonholed into one thing. No. Question number 16. Would I rather have all of my characters have some physical deformity, or have all of my characters have some internal twisted nature? Uh, I'd like a combination of both. I don't like one-dimensional anything. If I'd had to choose, I think I would go for the physical deformity because it resonates with in Only Human and the Human Cycle. There are the Gerald Order. All of the vampires have some physical impediment, and I did it intentionally. I wanted to show that even with a physical impediment, these are like the elite fighters. These are the go-to guys. These are the badasses. Even though they're gimps, even though they're invalids, and they're it's not they're handy capable. No, they're badasses. And I know people with different types of limitations as we perceive them who are amazing. My grandmother was blind, and the level of detail that she said with stories was amazing. And I could say so many examples, and I want to show that even with a physical deformity, you're not limited. Question number 17. Would I rather have an orphan main character with good friends, or a main character with a good-sized family and family problems? We already have Harry Potter, so we don't have to have an orphan with great friends. I'd rather a good-sized family with family problems. I think there's a lot of complexity there that would be interesting to explore. Question number 18: Would I rather write the sex scene or not write the sex scene? Complex answer. In Only Human, there's actually a sex scene that and that I did omit from the detail of it. I did omit from the final work because I thought it was too much or did not serve the purpose correctly. Second book also has a sex scene, but I try to use that because in the exploration of humanity, sexuality is part of humanity. So I will write the sex scene. Question number 19: Would I rather write about uncertain dangers and intrigue or write about direct confrontation and violence? Again, I like a little bit of both. But if I had to choose one or the other, um, I would say uncertain dangers and intrigue. Mystery is always going to be compelling. And question number 20: Would I rather have to answer any question put to me by fans, or have no fans asking you questions? As long as it doesn't offer spoilers or doesn't offend anyone, I've been pretty open with pretty much everything I've been asked, and I've been asked a lot of stuff. So I'd answer the questions. If something comes that flags, well, I'll take the punishment for not obeying the answer of the would you rather tag. So yeah, those are my 20 questions, 20 answers. Um, and anyone who has the desire to do this tag, do it. This is super fun. I don't want to. I don't want to mention other people because I always tag a lot of people, and I do feel that some of the people that get tagged, they go like, "Oh, I was gonna tag that person," so I'm gonna leave this open. I rarely do this. So for now, with an open tag, peace, love, and Mikey rolls.